Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Hello people, welcome back to the East Riding of Yorkshire once again. Now, on this channel, we often see things that are very, very tall, but usually those tall objects have a reason to be tall. In this place, there's something that's extremely tall, but nobody knows why it's here. It's called the Rudston Monolith, and you'll find it in the parish of the same name. Welcome to Rudston. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Rudston, Redstone. Now I know for a fact there's been a lot of people out there waiting for this one, and I know why. Welcome to Rudston, a village which has perhaps one of the most curious landmarks we've ever come across. Rudston gets its name thanks to a huge stone that stands in its churchyard. It's so big, it's been dubbed the Rudston Monolith. Where it came from can only be theorised, but there are some good clues. As to why it was brought here though, well that's anyone's guess. Folklore tales are rife with it, and there's some good ones, let me tell you. Aside from the monolith though, Rudston has a lot more to talk about. This is a village which once again sits on the Gypsey Race, and for the first time in its presence we'll get a really good look at it here and how fast and deep it can be. Rudston has a connection to one of the most famous Scottish clans, the MacDonalds of Sleat. Ever since the 18th century, the clan have been seated at Thorpe Hall, a mansion that stands to the east of the village once lived in by the Bosvilles. Their name is preserved by way of the local pub. In this one, we'll also be talking about cricket, an English author, 2 old chapels, a garage, and an old school. So come with me around Rudston and let's learn a bit about the tallest freestanding stone in the United Kingdom. We start today's walk to the north of the village on the road to Burton Fleming. This is Rudston's playing field, a prime example of the village's tradition of independence and self-help. Established in 1983 thanks to Sir Ian MacDonald and a band of enthusiastic and resourceful villagers, it offers all year-round sport to this North Wolds community. It has a football pitch and a bowls green, and one of only 2 cricket teams in the Great Wold Valley. It's all served by a spacious, light and airy pavilion built by the villagers themselves. Now let's head into the village over the Gypsey Race, which we'll see several times here. This is Middle Street and that is Redgate Garage, which offers car sales, service, repairs and general garage related stuff. There's a phone box here as well, which once again houses a defib machine. There's a certain shocking theme in this part of Yorkshire. On the same corner, there's another really good information board. They do like these in the Great Wold Valley, don't they? This shows a map of the entire village as well as some notable landmarks and a bit of history. And this is all just off the B1253 or Thwing Road, which runs across the northern edge of Rudston village. Let's walk up here. A few moments later, I was on a set of steps that lead into Rudston's churchyard. Grade 1 listed, the church here is dedicated to All Saints. Of 14th century origin, it was restored in 1861 by George Fowler Jones. It contains a gigantic organ given to the village by Sir Alexander MacDonald of the Isles. Since September 2014, the North Isle has had a small heritage area, including a 3D map of the village and a set of information boards. As nice and historic as the church is, it's the churchyard here that attracts the most attention. In it stands perhaps the most amazing landmark we've ever seen. Behind me you can see the Rudston Monolith. Now, as I said at the beginning of this episode, nobody knows why this thing is here. There are some interesting theories, and we'll go through a couple of them. I'd like to think that the theory behind the javelin is the actual reason why, because I love a bit of folklore. I'll tell you about that in a moment. This is how tall this thing is. I'm stood at the base of it. I'll just tip the camera up. It's actually not as tall as I thought it was. When I came into the churchyard, my first reaction was, wow, that's actually quite small compared to the pictures I've seen. But now I'm stood right next to the thing. It's almost as high as the church tower. So actually, it is quite a monstrous thing. The Rudston Monolith. So, there are some stories behind this, some theories, some folklore tales. Let's go through a couple of them. The Rudston Monolith is, at a height of over 25 feet, the tallest megalith or standing stone in the United Kingdom. It's a slender object with two large flat faces and weighs around 40 tons. It dates to the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age. Nobody knows why it's here. Some say it came here naturally from the Cleveland Hills, thanks to glaciation in the last ice age, but a more colourful theory suggests that the devil hurled it like a javelin to destroy a church built on what is a sacred pagan hill. Divine intervention would deflect his aim though, and it missed, embedding it into the earth nearby. The monolith isn't the only reason why people come to this churchyard either. Some people come to see a famous grave belonging to the author Winifred Holtby. A novelist and journalist, Holtby is perhaps best known for her novel South Riding, which was posthumously published in 1936. Rudston was her birthplace and childhood home. Her mother Alice had the distinction of being the first older woman on the East Riding County Council. Let's go out onto School Lane next. Here we meet a wall built by public subscription to commemorate the 60th year of Queen Victoria's reign. Rudston doesn't have a school, but it used to. This was it, a national school built in 1858. It's now a private house, but the property has retained the old school bell, still visible above the roof. There's nothing like a bit of character. Let's head onto Church Lane now, which will take us to Eastgate. And speaking of character, architecturally, Rudston showcases a charming mix of historical cottages and modern residences that blend seamlessly with the rural aesthetic. These elements combine to create a picturesque setting that embodies the historical and cultural richness in this part of Yorkshire. Now we've reached Eastgate and it's a dead end to the left. To the right we go next therefore, and our next landmark is an old chapel. Rudston's first primitive Methodist chapel was built on Long Street in 1850. It lasted for more than 40 years, but in 1876 it was demolished and replaced by this one on Eastgate. This was in use until the 1990s, when it was converted into a house. And doesn't it look fabulous today? Rudston also had a Wesleyan chapel too. It's still in use as the village hall, which we'll catch further around this route. For now, we're heading towards the Gypsey Race again. It stands to reason where there's water, there's a pump. This fabulous old ironwork can be found right next to a parish notice board. Let's get Rudston ticked off, shall we? By my count, that's 11 left in the East Riding. Now at this point you can see just how fast and deep the Gypsy Race can be. It's fed by springs from the Wolds, and when they're full, the race literally runs. The running has been associated with great calamity, hence why the race is sometimes known as the Woe Waters of the Wolds. Many poems have been written about the race, and folklore dating back to pagan times adds to its mystery. After walking around the southern reaches of the village, we're now following the Gypsey Race via a footpath. It runs past a playground and emerges at the village hall on Martin Lane. As we learnt earlier, this is the old Wesleyan chapel and it was built in 1879. The building was then donated to the village by Sir Godfrey Bosville MacDonald in 1945 as a peace thanks offering, along with some 500 square yards of adjoining land. Bosville and MacDonald are important names in Rudston. We'll learn more about them both towards the end of this episode. It's all residential for a bit now. The local community in Rudston is known for its warm hospitality and cultural activities that keep the village lively throughout the year. Events such as the annual Rudston Village Show help maintain the traditions and a strong sense of unity among its inhabitants. Rudston has about 165 houses in total. Now we're crossing the Gypsey Race yet again and heading out onto Long Street. Winifred Holtby lived at Rudston House, which is on this very road. There was also once Donna Farm along here too, which has now been replaced with modern housing, a cul-de-sac appropriately named Donna Fields. We return to the B1253 and this is the Bosville Arms, a traditional village pub dating back over 100 years. After a period of closure, this has been bought by the village now and it reopened earlier this year. The old stable block behind the pub has some motel-style letting rooms, ideal for those wishing to stay in the area. This road too is worth a mention. The B1253 was an ancient trackway, which has become a road now. It's probably been in use since Neolithic times, and given it passes the church, it's not inconceivable that the monolith may have travelled along here to get to the village. Okay, we are back to the beginning. Rudston is complete, almost. There is one other thing I do need to drive to in a moment's time. What a great village. What a fantastic village. Full of mystery and intrigue around the Rudston Monolith. I wonder if any of those folklore tales are indeed true. Okay, so to finish this one off, we need to head towards the coast, towards Bridlington, because Rudston has a secondary settlement within its boundaries, and it's called Thorpe Hall. Let's go and cover that to finish. Leaving the village, you can't fail to miss the massive war memorial on the left. It's a simple stone cross which was made by the Victoria Stone Company. It commemorates 11 men whose names are on a brass plaque. All 11 died in World War I, and Rudston has no memorial for World War II. Once beyond that, you'll notice on the right hand side there's a long brick wall. That wall forms part of the Thorpe Hall estate, which is private property for the most part. The estate has a small caravan and camping site named Thorpe Hall Cottages, but the thing of most note here is the hall itself. Thorpe Hall was designated a Grade 2 listed building in 1952. William Bosville was the last of his family to own it, and he bequeathed it to his nephew Godfrey MacDonald, the 3rd Baron MacDonald of Sleat, whose descendants own it today. The hall stands quite a way back from the road, and the blanket of trees in front of it means we can't actually see it, or at least not from here. This is what it looks like. Thorpe Hall remains the seat of the Clan MacDonald. It's not often we have some Scottish history to talk about on this channel, so here's a bit about the clan. The MacDonalds of Sleat are a branch of Clan Donald, one of the largest clans in Scottish history. They have a bloody history, like all Scottish clans do. Their main rivals were the MacLeods of Harris and Dunvegan and the MacLeans of Duart. The clan also suffered from infighting too in the early 16th century, as leading members fought and murdered each other. Their historic allegiances go a bit like this. They grudgingly supported the royalist cause in the Wars of the Three Kingdoms and suffered grievously in military defeats against parliamentarian forces. They supported the Jacobite cause in the 1715 rebellion, yet refused to come out for Bonnie Prince Charlie and his father a generation later, in 1745. In the early 18th century, the clan's chief was involved in a plan to sell tenants into servitude in the American colonies. By the late 18th century, the chiefs had alienated themselves from the common clansfolk when they seated themselves here in northern England. Today, members and descendants of the clan live all over the world. And that will do us for Rudston, everyone. Quite an amazing little place this, and one that everyone should visit in my opinion. I'd love to know what you all thought of the monolith down below. Next week we're off to another village on the Gypsey Race, and one with a massive link to poultry. Interesting stuff. See you there. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.